We keep doing it. I don't know why. We keep bringing Chad back. Viewership is at an all-time low. It's like an episode of Monday Night Raw. Vince McMahon is freaking out in the back, but we are sticking to it. We are keeping the booking the same. We are going with Chad because this is a huge Chad Clough episode. Number one, because he skipped last week, and we had to bring a real professional in. But number two, there is more Badgers news than I don't even know. I mean, we're going to spend the whole 40 minutes on this? Like, are we even going to talk? We're not even going to talk Packers, Panthers, right?
Hey, can we blame COVID for our viewership being down? Like, is that a thing? Or no, because we're not like put seats.
Let me start it this way. So I'm in the car today, driving to the grocery store, and my brothers are with me, okay? And Brian, of course, shout out B. Diddy, the biggest fan of the show, okay? If we had 14 listens in a week, Brian's listened twice. No doubt about it, okay? Brian's sharing videos. He's liking tweets. Brian is team run the ball. Brian is our number one fan. Matt is like, yeah, I don't even listen to it. I don't know why you guys keep doing it. And I'm like, wait a minute, pump the brakes. I said, COVID has allowed me to have one of my best friends and myself have a conversation about sports every week. He said, well, you can do that over the phone. Why are you recording it? I said, I don't know. I think it adds to my credibility on the radio, although only 14 people listen to this, so that doesn't really matter, apparently.
I wonder if BJ even listens. BJ and the Bear, do they listen?
They have their moments. They have their moments because there's times where I go on Tuesdays and they're like, they know what we talked about. Okay. At least BJ. Brian Butch, if you're listening right now, I'm shocked. Okay, absolutely shocked. But my point is Matt says to me, I don't know why you're still doing this. He's like, number one, you can't really be enjoying it that much. I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, you don't want to talk about the Packers nonstop. You know that you want to talk about all things sports. He's like, you know, I'd listen to your podcast if Chad talked about cards.
Yeah, let's go.
If you had Matt McCoy talk a little bit about fantasy football, I'd listen. So wait a minute. So what you're saying is we should turn football first into football first last? And stuff.
Oh, football
right?
last.
So that's what you're saying. You're saying there should be a menu of everything. He's like, well, that's who you are. You know a lot about everything. Why are you just talking about the Packers? He said, plus, when you talk about the Packers, you get all mad. And I said, you're right. Because I watch a Packer game, and all I can think is, if they lose, I'm going to have to answer to this and talk about it on a podcast, and then talk about it on the radio, and deal with idiots on Twitter. And he said, John, the podcast should become the anti-fan podcast. Because you know what you hate more than anything? Because I hate nothing. I really don't hate anything. Except sports fans. That's what I hate. And I'm doing a sports podcast.
What about flag football officials?
Oh, that's up there. But again, is that in the hate range? So he's like, you and Chad need to figure out what you want this to be. So listen, if you're listening, all 12 of you, I ask you this. Go on Twitter. On Twitter. Follow the Football First podcast. Just follow the Twitter, okay? See the content that IL Yahtzee's throwing out there for you, okay? It's worth following that, then maybe coming to the podcast and actually realizing very little football actually gets talked about here. It is more of a stuff show. It is two idiots on a Davenport talking. You're absolutely right, okay? And we're choosing to record it for you. You're welcome, okay? That's our mission statement. So deal with it. I'm not giving the podcast up, and Matt can suck it. There you go. So let's get into the Chad Clough episode because that's what this one is called. Because we got too much Badger stuff to talk about. Then worry about Matt Dinsey and his lack of purpose in his life and wanting to attack me.
Why is he trying to project his failures onto us?
Let's do this. If we want to call Matt Dinsey out, you know who loves the podcast? Team Run the Ball themselves. Pirates football. Grantsburg, Wisconsin, sending the hoodie to the Football First podcast crew. I am wearing it. Leo Chanel, I know you're listening, okay? I know you're listening, John Chanel. I'm wearing a Grantsburg football shirt. And if you get all the Badger football players to listen to this podcast, they'll laugh, okay? They'll have a little bit of fun. And you know what they'll know more about? Football. You're welcome. So Matt Dinsey, second time I'm going to say this, suck it, okay? Back to the Badger episode with Chad Clough. So, Chad, we have
Ready.
3 major topics, and I don't think we can get to anything else. We got an Axe game that actually happened. So before you took your hiatus, which viewership actually did increase.
Yeah,
But
I don't
not
think that's not a surprise.
but not by that much. It wasn't a large increase. Okay. We brought the big guns and we ran Stone Cold Steve Austin in for an episode of Monday Night Raw just to get the ratings up. We got to talk about the Axe game, obviously. If you follow Chad's text messages to me, you would have thought the Badgers lost.
Will thought you really brought Stone Cold on.
Yeah. Hey, he's coming on the next. Hey guys, listen next week. Subscribe, and Stone Cold will be here.
Can you imagine if Stone Cold came on and we still only had 12 listeners?
It'd be like one of the lost tapes at WWE Network. Like the one podcast episode where Stone Cold went on and no one listened. Okay, so that's topic number 1, and we'll get to it. But I want to make sure we hit all 3 because we're going to let this roll for 40 minutes. I'm putting this straight on YouTube when we're done. I'm not even producing it. We're done. Number 2, the man, the myth himself, your former boss, Brad Bielema, is back. and then last but not least, the news from today that Jack Coan has entered the transfer portal. I didn't even get a text message back from you on that one. So let's have the Badger episode. Let's have the Chad Clough episode. I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to let you go. You want to hit? What do you want to hit first? You want to talk Axe game?
Yeah, well, we might as well because so the Axe game, remember at the first time I got canceled, I was talking about how disappointed I was because that's when the Badgers actually looked halfway decent. And I was like, hey man, I want that Axe game because anytime you get a chance to win the Axe, it's a good day. And beating
against what's your name? What did you call PJ Fleck on the episode?
Oh, I don't remember. I didn't call him PJ Fleck.
No. Your nickname was Look at Me Fleck, which is going to be a T-shirt. Sooner than later.
Yeah. And you know what? He wasn't a whole look at me. He wasn't doing the whole look at me sprint up and down the sideline thing.
Chad, they came out to the field with an American flag, a Minnesota State flag, an oar, and a shield. I don't know what the shield has to do with anything.
Well, I think like Vikings used to put the shield on the front of their boats or something.
They're the Gophers. They're not the Vikings.
Yeah, but if you're rowing a boat, you have to have protection. So you might as well have the shield with you.
Fleck's methodology is all over the place. No one even knows anymore.
Do you think in the next year or two they're going to wear life jackets when they come out?
That'd be so funny as they come out to the game with the oar, like they're rowing the boat. Then they lose and they have life jackets on because the boat is sinking.
Anyway, so of course, then they started to struggle. And when I was watching the game on my phone because it was on Big Ten Network and we don't have cable. Thanks, Mike and Bev. I know you guys are listening. So I was watching the game on my phone through their account.
Shout out one of our 14 listeners. Thank you.
Yep. And they were flat right off the start again. Missed a field goal on their opening drive. They ran a really questionable third down play on that first drive that basically seemed like it was it was a run to Julius Davis, I was like, hey, sweet, Davis is in. Maybe he's going to get some burn. They ran him on 3rd and 6, and then we never saw him on the field again. And they kicked a 40 yard field goal that they missed. And then they punted, and then Minnesota comes down and scores really quickly. I mean, they went a big run from Ibrahim, and then they scored on a 16-yard touchdown pass. And I was like, oh boy, because I didn't know if we could get to 10, to be honest.
Let's start there. So I'm looking at the status report pregame. Not available: Jalen Berger, Stephen Bracey, Isaac Garando, Danny Davis, Samar Melvin, Kendrick Pryor, Cole Van Lannon, Nakia Watson. That's on top of out of the season, Isaiah Green-May, Matt Henningsen, Caden Lyles. Like, who is left?
You're essentially down to first off, you're to your backup quarterback, right? Because if Coan never got hurt, he's number one coming into the season. He's 19-5 or 19 touchdowns, 5 picks or whatever it was last year. I mean, they won 10 games or whatever, and he didn't do anything to play himself off the field. So you're already on your backup quarterback. Then you're down to your second, third string running back. You're on a backup left tackle, a backup center. Your third wide receiver is now your 1. Your 4 is now your 2. Which had been a struggle, obviously part of their struggles, but the other part of that was they were still getting guys open, and Mertz was in those previous games was still missing guys.
Well, and that's what your text messages were to me. They were very much official based in all of your annoyances about officials, yes, but then they were definitely Mertz missing throws. And what's funny is you text me, and I'm like, well, let me check Twitter. And Twitter was it was ridiculous on the assessments of Graham Mertz and how he was kept missing people. And a lot of times it was Joe Rudolph's fault. He couldn't complete a pass, obviously.
Right. But right. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't like, and we've talked a little bit about this too. Like, I don't like Rudolph. Like, there's no flow to me. There's no tempo. And tempo now gets confused of tempo is fast. Like when people say now they're going tempo, and that means they're going no huddle, 100 miles an hour, snapping at 4 seconds into the play clock. The Badgers have their own tempo. Their tempo is very much different than what is considered tempo now. Their counters and their powers and their zones and their play action game, that's all a part of their tempo. They're not a super fast, up to the line team or anything like that, but you can tell when they're in a flow and when they're not. And there has been no flow lately. I thought a few times they got into a good flow on their touchdown drive. They Groshek 8, Groshek 1, Stocky 3, rollout play action pass to Stocky for 14, done on a quick pattern for 10. And then they hit that quick trap for Groshek for 40 right up the middle. And I was like, okay, because Groshek looked like really quick off of it. It was a quick hitting play. He exploded right up the middle. It was really well blocked. And you're like, okay, now they're kind of feeling it again. And they got Minnesota drives down. Burrell makes a huge interception in the end zone to keep them out, to keep the score at 7. And then they come back, and it's Shipper for 3, Shipper for a loss of 2. And then, Dunn missed, and then you had Mertz missed, and you had to dump off to Groshek, and they're punting, and then all of a sudden it was the punt game.
See, for a guy that didn't watch it play by play like you did, it really to me came down to getting interested after you text me that Leo Chanel missed a tackle that probably ends the game because it was on 4th down, right? It was a 4th down play where Tanner Morgan converts.
Flipped them. Yeah, Tanner Morgan.
Then they end up scoring. They end up tying it. But so I get involved towards the end of the game, and right in time for a deep throw that Joe Rudolph dialed up.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Yeah, and that's the other thing, right?
So help me understand what's happening here. They're driving down the field.
So Wisconsin before that, right? So Wisconsin before that goes 9 plays, 75 yards. Minnesota taking a 10-7 lead. Wisconsin goes 9 plays, 75 yards in 4.5 minutes. It was a Mertz incompletion, Groshek 3. Mertz threw a dart to Dunn for 24. Hit him again for 8. Groshek for 7. Mertz threw another beautiful ball to Ferguson for 23. So at this point, this is after halftime, and all of a sudden Mertz is getting back into the flow, right? And you can just see all of those things that we've talked about and all those things that we talked about after the Illinois game where Badger quarterbacks haven't been able to make the ball pop off their arm and put it on a line and get it in between 2 guys. He made 2 of those throws in a row. And I looked at Will and I was like, he's back. I don't know where it came from, but he was throwing those flutter balls in the first half, right? The 10-yard out that's 17 yards over the head and takes 5 minutes to get there. That was in the first half. And then all of a sudden he was just throwing darts everywhere. And they get to 2nd and goal. And, well, first off, I'm going to complain about another Rudolph call. They get 1st and goal at the 10. They run DK on the shotgun. You know how they have the shotgun jet sweep essentially, where they like flip the ball forward.
Yeah.
So of course they run that. And where do they run it to? They put two guys over on the left side to the short side of the field, and then they run it to the short side of the field, which drives me nuts. And I understand like you have to have the short side of the field and it needs to be respected and stuff, but run your weak side stuff over there. Don't run that as your strong side on a outside run nonetheless. So of course it loses a yard.
Well, you're putting, when you have two other guys over there, you're putting two defenders in the short side of the field.
Well, right. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And so then it's 2nd and goal from the 11, and Mertz runs for 7. And as he's going to dive, which you want your quarterback to slide, but he's going to dive, and the Minnesota defender literally jumps in head first and hits him helmet to helmet out in the open field, and there is nothing. Like, there's not even a review. They reviewed earlier a kickoff return where a Badger got blocked into the kickoff returner, and yes, did make helmet contact, but it was a block into the guy, and they reviewed that, but they're not going to review a quarterback in the open field, literally head to head, concussing him, and they're not going to review it. That just drove me nuts. And I was like, as soon as it happened, I was like, great, he's out. Like,
well, in the thing that's been frustrating, and I would say this has been, to me, a growing trend all year, is, you know, you complain about the holding calls that are not called on the defensive linemen. And for all your stupid text messages to me about how the Packers get every call, Kenny Clark is held every play. He's absolutely unblockable, especially by the interior D-O lineman of the Panthers couldn't block him. But the ability, supposedly we're going to protect quarterbacks, and that's on a case-by-case basis nowadays. In college and in the pros, it's case by case. I mean, I've seen Trevor Lawrence get hit helmet to helmet and not have a penalty call. And God forbid, if you're not Trevor Lawrence, you're definitely not getting it unless it's completely obvious. And today, Mitch Trubisky slid after getting a first down, and a Vikings linebacker landed on top of him. He gives himself up feet first. The linebacker lands on top of him. Nothing. No call. And I'll even say, late in the Packer game, same scenario. Teddy Bridgewater got thumped by two dudes and no call.
Yeah, it's so inconsistent and it's so frustrating. But this is out in the open field, and like he totally dove in with his head first. Anyway, so he gets knocked out of the game. And of course, like I just said, it was after all of a sudden he's back, he's got a rhythm. He's just throwing darts to Ferguson, done, making the right play on the scramble, and he gets hurt. And you're like, oh my goodness. Okay, so now we're going to Chase Wolf. So
this is how they go to Chase Wolf. So they didn't pull, and again, I didn't watch the whole game. So they didn't pull Mertz to go to Wolf.
No.
Mertz got hurt, they went to Wolf.
Yeah, they also had earlier in the game put in some design runs for Wolf. They said that
because I saw on Twitter, I saw people like, just go with Wolf. Just go with Wolf. I mean, I saw that whole drama.
Well, I mean, right, but after the last two games, you're like, you can't do another game like that. And
yeah, I'm pretty sure you were contributing to the drama and saying the same thing.
And Mertz started off that way, and it's like, come on, like he's just playing with no confidence. You can't.
Graham, you're mad at IL Yahtzee, not at Dinzy J. Just
I get experience in playing through those things.
So where does this all play out? This is inside the 10?
Yeah, this is no. So the scramble takes him down to the 4, and Wolf they had put in for some design runs earlier, and you're like, okay, what are they going to do? And they go shotgun, and they make it look like he's about to run it, and he quick flips a pass to Dunn for the touchdown.
Right. So now they're up 17-10.
14-10.
14-10.
Yep.
Okay.
Then later they added a field goal to get up 17-10.
So then on the 4th and 5 play, they don't get the tackle. Minnesota scores. Give me this last drive that drove everyone crazy and why Joe Rudolph was getting eaten up on Twitter for apparently a deep shot to the 7th string wide receiver.
Well, so at this point, Groshek's probably at 120 yards, 130 yards, and he's cooking. Like, I mean,
the Garrett Groshek game is what Twitter calls it.
Yeah, I mean, he was like, obviously, I say this with some grain of salt, but he was like Derrick Henry. Like, I mean, guys are just jumping on his back, and he's literally carrying guys for like, you think it's a 3-yard gain, and he gets 7 or 8. Not even joking. And there's like 4 or 5 guys on him. Like, it was insane. I have never seen anything from Garrett Groshek that resembled anything remotely close to that before. It was crazy. So then they get the ball at the 18 after Minnesota ties it. All right, so they go Groshek for 2. Wolf throws to Dunn for 7. They run Stocky for 1 and get the first. Pass interference on a deepish shot to DK off a play action. Then they get Groshek for 9. Groshek for 10. So at this point, there's like a minute 20-ish left. They are at the 40-yard line, right? And Groshek just picks up 20 yards on his last 2 carries. You're thinking another first down, 15 yards, and you've got a good chance at a field goal, right? 10 to 15 yards. Now, Larsh had missed earlier in the game from about 47, so 10 yards puts him a first down, and then not gaining another yard puts him at 47, right, to win the game. 1st and 10 with a minute 20 left, and they go Chase Wolf, max protect, play action to Devin Chandler.
Devin who?
Yeah, Devin Chandler.
I was going to say, did Jared Abadaris come back? I mean, if they're going max protect, we're going to throw it.
Like, and granted, it was perfectly blocked. It was a one-on-one matchup.
Sure.
But
okay, so again,
the context of the game, the player.
I'm not going to be you, and I'm not going to be Badger Twitter, and I'm not going to beat Joe Rudolph up.
Doesn't make sense
until you tell me the rest of the drive. So what happened on 2nd down and what happened on 3rd down?
They threw the pick on first.
Oh, it was picked?
The bomb?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then that's trash. Okay, then. Yeah, okay, then.
No, that's why people were so upset, because they had the ball at the 40 with a minute and 20 left. And Groshek had just picked up 20 yards on his last 2 carries. Like, you could just see, like, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about their tempo.
Yeah, I think, and I've said this to you before. And it's my frustration at times, even with as good as the Packers offense is, it's my frustration with Matt LaFleur. The Panthers game was the epitome of it, that they ran the ball really effective. Aaron Jones had 20-plus carries for 140-plus yards, but when they went play action, they took shots and they didn't run boots and waggles. Like if you've ran the ball 20 times for 20 yards back to back, and you want to throw the ball, great. Go for it. But move the pocket. Give yourself something underneath. Don't give me a one-on-one deep shot.
Yeah.
Right?
And like I said, and people are like, oh, that's terrible. I was in the that's terrible crowd, because in my mind, I'm playing to kick the field goal. And people are like,
of course you are.
Well, I'm conservative like that.
Right.
Yeah,
I was going to say. So north of Highway 29, man, that's life up there, man. 715 represent.
And other people are like, well, I like to call, if it was Mertz to Davis. And I'm like, yeah, I'd like to call too if it was Rodgers to Devontae Adams. Sure. If you're giving me Mahomes to Tyreek Hill, I love the play.
I mean, and again, I didn't see it. Ultimately,
give me the Mac Jones to one of his 18 wide receivers.
And again, I didn't see it. And ultimately, we can get to the punchline in the end of this game quickly, so we can get to the other topics. But was it a badly thrown ball? I mean, did the receiver?
It was underthrown.
Okay.
I mean, the corner had inside position. He wasn't trailing. He wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't in the. He was in the right place where he had to be.
Right. And again, it's the only guy on the route. So the only option is to just chuck it to the only place the receiver can catch it or throw it away. Is what you're saying.
Which he didn't do. And I don't like. We've never seen a ton of Wolf, so we don't know Wolf's arm strength or what his strengths and stuff are. But it was like, I mean, you're asking him to make like a 50-yard pass essentially.
Yeah, it's a call you'd be happy with if it's Graham Mertz, hypothetically.
Right. Oh, hold on. I got a quick interjection here.
Mahomes was just about to get sacked, and he threw the ball up into the air, and one of the offensive line caught the ball on a third down, and they fourth and 7.
Oh my gosh. Are they still winning?
Yeah.
It's 14-0 yet. Yeah.
Well, I think the Saints just scored. I think it's 14-7.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
by the way, I just want you to know this. And I know this is the Chad Clough episode. And it's a Badger episode. But your New York Jets are up 13-3 over the Rams, who I was told are the best team in the NFC all week. Just going to throw that out there.
Who said that?
Oh, my God. All the national media. The Saints aren't for real. The Packers aren't any good. It's the Rams. They're the best. Give it up. Okay. So Minnesota doesn't score. They start in overtime. They miss a field goal, a chip shot field goal.
Yeah.
Were you happy with
at this point, we were so invested. Will basically stole my phone and commandeered it and was like in a panic over it. Like he was nervous. He was like, oh, they need to miss this. They need to miss this. And, and they went Ibrahim for 6, Ibrahim for 1, Noah Burks. Did you see that? They slipped that backside tight end out and they ran everybody to the right and it was a throwback and Burks just got his fingers on it.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter someone comment about it, and then the video was up pretty quick. In fact, Will's video is up of the old lineman catching it. Pretty cool play, actually. So the video, PFF had it up literally in 2 minutes. It's up. Yeah. On 4th and 2.
That throwback, that play by Burks, if he doesn't get his hand on the ball, that's a touch. I think that's a touchdown. I don't think anybody was back behind that.
So look at me. Flack ends up having his kicker miss a field goal. Overall, are you happy with the Rudolph play calling to get to the point where, guys, punchline, if you don't know this, Colin Larsh hits the game-winning field goal. Badgers win 20-17.
Well, yeah, because what did they do? They went Groshek. Like, Groshek was that entire drive. So they knew that, they knew they were playing for 3 before that anyway. And now you're 15 yards closer.
Listen, as
now
I
you're
told
definitely playing for 3, but it was Groshek for 8, Groshek for 4, 2, 1, and then a loss of 2.
Listen, as I told you through text message, I am watching Ohio State and Northwestern, and I'm for sure watching Trevor Lawrence. So I was not watching it for many reasons. Because the real Badger news on Saturday was your former boss, Bert Bielema, is back. And for our guy, Pig Suey himself, who needed a chance to compete, and get to a bigger, better school in Arkansas, he makes a return to the college ranks.
Remember
for Illinois. I want everyone to know this.
Hold on. You just alluded to it, but let's just remind everybody in case they forgot, which I'm sure Badger Nation didn't, because Badger Nation
didn't. If anyone was on Twitter, the Badger Nation definitely didn't forget.
He said he was leaving Wisconsin to go to Arkansas because they had a better chance to win a national title.
Now, to be clear, though, at the time, there were issues with payment of assistant coaches and budgeting in comparison to other teams in the Big Ten and the SEC. So his gripes.
What are Wisconsin assistants paid now?
They're still underpaid, but Paul Chryst has gotten more money for them.
And that seems to make sense because
that's part of the reason they lost Dave Aranda is they can't compete with LSU's the amount of money that they could offer him. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. So again, either way, he picked Arkansas.
Now,
okay.
Hold on. Here's another huge advantage that Chryst has over what Bielema did is that Chryst has Wisconsin guys on his staff.
Absolutely. And so far,
you can pay them in general. You'll be able to pay Wisconsin guys less to stay home.
And so far, he's been able to keep Jim Leonard. Luckily, even though Jim Leonard's paid relatively well, but he's still underpaid amongst D coordinators.
He could go pretty much anywhere. And
right. So at the time, Bielema arguably could have took a variety of different jobs. He selects Arkansas, which does not end well. I don't want to pick on Brett Bielema, but Arkansas was not good to him health-wise is how I'm going to leave this. over time, he bounced to the Patriots. He's down with the Giants. Actually doing a really good job with young, inexperienced outside linebackers. The Giants' defense is awesome right now. But he's leaving the Giants in the pro ranks to compete for a national title with the Fighting Illini themselves in Illinois, replacing Lovie Smith, who a year ago, I think I was told, and I'm not the Badger fan you were, Illinois was turning the corner. They're turning the corner.
I definitely never said
that. Tell me about Burt. Give me more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say, when he got to Wisconsin, like when he came rolling in from Kansas State. Now you have to remember a couple of things. Number one, he was young, and he's rolling into Wisconsin, which wasn't a traditional power. Not like we weren't as consistent as we are now. We were, sometimes a 7-win team, sometimes a 9 or 10-win team. But it was still Wisconsin, who had still been to multiple Rose Bowls, had a lot of talent on the field, and had a defense and a plan that had been in place for years, and a staff that had been in place for years. So he comes in really young with a really old football staff.
Yeah, he was the code D coordinator at Kansas State in 02-03, comes to Wisconsin in 04, the D coordinator in 04-05, then becomes head coach in 06. And guys, I want to be really clear, like Brett Bielema did some really good things as the Badger head coach and continued the legacy that Barry Alvarez built. He was great to the high school coaches in the state of Wisconsin. He was great to our staff at UW Oshkosh. I mean, he was awesome to our staff. Not to the level. I mean, honestly, Dave Doran treated us awesome, but Dave Doran was a major hire and a guy that Brett Bielema groomed, and then eventually became his D coordinator. So I had really no ill will towards Brett Bielema, and probably wouldn't.
When he comes in 04, like I said, so they come in and they start off the season. Remember, this is like the Mega Powers game with Orton. This is the Robert Brooks flips over Orton in a night game. Orton fumbles it. He's in the middle of his Heisman campaign. Orton fumbles it, and Scott Starks picks it up and runs it back for a touchdown.
Wait, go back. So we're talking Kyle Orton.
Yeah.
For the people, not everyone knows what you know. The Purdue quarterback, Kyle Orton, okay? And who's Robert Brooks, the Packer?
Come on, yeah. No, he would. So they were at the time. They were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-0. They had just beaten Ohio State at Ohio State 24-13, and they come in and we're playing number 5. We're number 10. We're playing number 5 Purdue at Purdue, and this is the game of the century for Purdue. 5 versus 10.
Still is.
Yeah, right. And we come in, and Kyle Orton's in the middle of like a Heisman campaign. I mean, he was in. Let me see if I can find his stats quickly for that season.
Dude, I mean, didn't he get taken in the first round, second round?
Fourth round.
In the 4th round? Wow,
Yeah.
What a steal Kyle Orton was.
But, I mean, they had won 51-0, 59-7, 38-30, 41-6. They beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame 41-16. Went to Penn State, beat them 20-13. And, like, they were just – I mean, he was putting up insane numbers. This is the Taylor era too, so it was, basketball on grass. Taylor Stubblefield had about 4,000 catches in his college career. And Brooks flips over Orton on like a 3rd and 1. They're going to ice the game. They get a first down. They win it. They run a naked boot. Orton comes out, and he's at the first down. Robert Brooks goes low, hits him, flips it over, punches the ball out. Scott Starks picks it up and sprints in for a touchdown. Wisconsin takes the lead and holds on to win the game. So then the next week we beat Northwestern 24-12, then demolish Minnesota 38-14. We roll into number 4 in the country. We roll into Michigan State, who's a 500 team, and just get obliterated 49-14. I mean, they just pounded Wisconsin. And we got stuffed early in the game on like a 4th and 1, or we fumbled on a 4th and 1, and they kept running like a trap, and we just couldn't stop it. And after the game, we get back, like the next day, we get called in from our boss, our on-field managers.
Wait, let's go back here. So Chad Clough, the student manager, gets called in by your boss after the Badgers get rolled by who?
The director of football operations, Jeremy.
Right, but
Susan,
who the actual football players? They got rolled by who?
Michigan State, who ended up this season like 5-6. Went to the.
So they called you guys in because clearly you had an effect on this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So no joke. We get called in, and all of us sit around this table, and Sins comes in and starts yelling at us, and we're like, "What?" You know, like he comes in, and usually he's like a real happy guy, like good sense of humor, smiling, laughing. He comes in and he's like slams the door shut. And we're kind of like, what is this? And proceeds to yell at us. And we're like, what are you talking about? And he starts yelling it. In the middle of his rant, he's like, and Alvarez and Bielema noticed this. And we're like, wait, what? You guys, you got to 7-0, and there you guys are walking around practice, lollygagging around, messing around while you're spotting the ball, holding the chains with minimal effort, and you're letting the 7-0 record go right to your heads. And the players see that, and they just fed right off of it, and that's why we got our butts pounded.
Oh, my God. That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Like,
Michigan State can thank the managers at Wisconsin for lollygagging during practice.
During practice. And we were like looking at each other, and we were like, are you serious?
Oh, my God. This story is better than anything we were going to talk about with Brett Bielema.
There is literally nobody that pays attention to us. Like, nobody pays attention to us.
Chad, I went to Badger practices for years as a football coach and didn't even notice your lanky ass, or anyone, to be honest with you, that was a student assistant ever, right?
Exactly.
Like the video guys, I noticed them because they always got me video and got me set up with computers. Like I was good with those guys.
Like nobody notices us. And they come in, and he yells at us, and he dropped both of their names in there. He said Bielema and El.
Well, I mean, clearly Bielema had a.
I do respect Brian White though, because he did not mention offensive coordinator Brian White's name in there.
but here's the deal. Clearly Bielema had the ear of everyone, right? Because as Barry retires, becomes the AD, Bielema becomes the head coach, and Bielema goes 68-24.
Yeah, but that was a hard transition for him, because you have to remember, on that staff too, in that 2004 team, like that was the old boys, like Wisconsin.
Right.
That was like the old boys Wisconsin club. Like Palermo, Huber, White. I'm seeing if I can find
Cosgrove. No,
Cosgrove was gone because he was at Nebraska.
Nebraska, yeah.
Yeah, but like that was like the old boys club, and so that's not an easy time. Like Palermo is not an easy guy to come in, and he's just not a friendly guy. Like he's a night.
Him and Hubner wasn't either. So
no, and I got to know them, and I got to like them, and I got to, you know what I mean? Like I built relationships, kind of, sort of, with them.
Well, until you started lollygagging during practice.
Yeah, and losing games for the team, but like that was not an easy group of people to come into, and
he was clearly
named the head coach in waiting.
Right, and that's the thing is he moved to the front, right, on that staff very quickly. He was an up and comer in college football. When he became the head coach, I think as a guy living in the state that likes the Badgers but doesn't love them like you, I was excited because he was a young coach that was going to care about the state of Wisconsin. He was a Midwest guy, and he did a great. I mean, he was 68-24. Now the downfall that Bielema always had is he was 2-4 in bowls. He didn't coach in his last bowl game, which Barry comes back for that bowl game. And honestly, not coaching in that game, being replaced by a legend in the game after you depart and go to Arkansas, and then the wife tweeting karma
after a regular season game.
Just just was the nail in the coffin, right? And if this guy comes back and he replaces Ferentz at Iowa, which I still to this day don't know why Brett Bielema doesn't continue to coach in the pros until Ferentz retires, because I think he legitimately would have a chance at that job.
I think that on his way out, I don't know what I did see some references of him burning bridges on his way to Kansas State, and what those bridges are, or what was done, what was said, I have no idea. And time heals and all that stuff, and I don't know if those things still exist, but I did see like some alluding to some bridges being burned and how he left Kansas State, which again, seeing him like as a young coach and as a young guy, I can absolutely see him burning bridges on his way out. Like he burned bridges in Wisconsin.
Listen. I will not tell any stories or give any insight at all from my experience coaching, or if I've been at a bar with any of these people and seen some stuff.
Yeah,
but
that's stuff that I know, and that's pretty common knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rumors that went around him. But here's my point. At the end of the day, the guy was a player at Iowa, highly regarded at his time at Iowa. He is very still well respected by Kirk Ferentz. He's had the time to now work under Belichick, getting an opportunity to get back and be with an up-and-coming coach in Patrick Graham, coaching really well on a good defense, almost rebuilding his I don't say he's rebuilding his resume, but a little bit of his image that was tarnished at Arkansas. I mean, he didn't leave Arkansas very well either.
Yeah, and they're still arguing. He still has some lawsuits.
He still has litigation. He still got a lawsuit against him. So my point is that, for him to continue to rebuild his image, and again, I'm not saying he'd get the Iowa job, but Iowa hates Wisconsin more than any other team, right? So like, that's a great story to tell. There's a lineage there. And to come back for Illinois, I just don't know if that's the move I would make. But I will say this: Brett Bielema being in college football is better for college football, and it's better for the Big Ten for him to be there. And I think he's a college guy. This is where he should be.
The thing that I'm excited for is first off, obviously I'm excited for Wisconsin to beat them and pound them. The next thing I'm excited for is his potential, as long as Look at Me Fleck is still around, the potential media circus around that game, because that unless he has matured a lot, he is going to be taking shots at PJ Fleck the minute the name comes up to him. Like, they are so polar opposite, and I cannot imagine that Bielema has any type of respect for him.
That's the thing, is Bielema is a big dude, right? And the little guy like Fleck is gonna drive him crazy, man.
Yeah,
just drive him nuts.
And that Paul Chris can't stand like his antics either. That most college coaches can't stand it, but most of them aren't going to say anything. Like Paul. Yeah,
Chris, was it after
never going to say anything, right? Like, he's going to say he's a great coach. He gets his players motivated. Like the coach speak. Like, I don't know if he knows how to talk outside of coach speak.
Well, that's the thing. It was after the Minnesota game.
Shy around.
It wasn't after the Minnesota game last year that there was a clip of Chris on the sideline after they kind of put the game away, where he made some sort of underhanded comment about rowing the boat.
Oh, maybe he did. He definitely did the turnover chain when Wisconsin went down and stomped.
That's what it was. That's what turnover chain my ass. That's what it was. Yeah. That one. Okay. All right. So last but not least, we wish Bert the best. And truly,
what happens, because they do have. He is a good recruit. I mean, there's a lot of NFL talent that came through. I mean, look at the 2011 roster. I just have it up here, but it was
he's a great
Wilson,
recruiter.
Hemer, Michael Caputo, Tolzien, Southward, James White, Mars, Bo Allen, Chris Borland, Melvin Gordon, Derek Watt.
Absolutely. Bielema is a good recruiter. He continued to keep, the fence around Wisconsin, like Barry would describe, and he had great connections throughout the state. He always hired good recruiters. And I think, again, if he can take the Wisconsin approach at Illinois instead of trying to get into Wisconsin and rehab some of his relationships that he has here.
Yeah.
He should be focused on owning the state of Illinois.
Well,
because
right.
they haven't owned the state of Illinois in 25
Illinois,
years.
You've got Illinois. You've got St. Louis isn't very far away. You've got Indianapolis, which isn't very far away. Like, you've got some major cities and major potential around you. And a huge key could be that their admissions at Illinois aren't like Wisconsin's. So you can take a chance on a guy that at Wisconsin maybe you couldn't take as much of a reach on. And that could be huge. Like, don't come into, like you said, don't try to come in Wisconsin and steal the top guys. If you want to if you want to fight Minnesota for Wisconsin guys, then sure. Because you know what? If a coach has to pick between sending his kid to PJ or sending his kid to Burt,
Well,
probably send it on the Bielema.
Well, in following the Badger game, I don't know who it was, but they tweeted out a picture of top 5 in-state recruits in Wisconsin, all going to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Top 5 in-state recruits in Minnesota. The number one player is going to Wisconsin. Only the number 2 player is going to Minnesota. I mean, Fleck has, tried to build this culture and this image and be attractable, but in a state that has very good football in the Twin Cities, he's not getting those players that he should be. And he's too often tried to have that hook into Wisconsin and try to pull those guys.
Yeah.
Instead of, how about you own the Twin Cities? And that's what I would tell Brett Bielema. And again, Brett Bielema knows this, but own the state of Illinois like you should, right? Now, he's got to compete with Pat Fitzgerald, who I would play for Pat Fitzgerald over anyone. But, Bielema has a lot of cachet in college football. So, again, I have no ill will towards the guy. I don't really believe Illinois is a threat to Wisconsin. He was always a good coach to us at Oshkosh, good to the state of Wisconsin coaches. It's just unfortunate the way he left. But to be honest with you, I don't know a situation where he's left and hasn't had a bad breakup. It's just kind of
with his personality. He's just a brash, you know what I mean? Like, he's just a brash kind of guy. Like, he's very stubborn. And I think that's part of it. Like, nobody wants to, especially at that level. Like, think of people at that level. How often they want to admit being wrong, or they want to be sorry. Like, it doesn't right? Like, that's not a personality trait. And that's why, like, when people are like, oh, Kobe Bryant's a jerk. Well, yeah. Like, LeBron can be a jerk. Yeah. Like, that's what makes people great sometimes, is that they have that killer attitude and that instinct. And I think he's one of those people, but some people are better at hiding it, or, you know what I mean? Like, not showing it. And he's not going to say he's sorry. He's not going to say he's wrong.
We got to get out of here. But we do want to mention that Jack Coan is entering the transfer portal, played his 4 years at Wisconsin, obviously didn't get to play this year in this COVID nightmare that this season was.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, leaving the Badgers, obviously not the way you'd want to see it. The amount of comments that have come from teammates already, the Badgers football post, I mean, Jack Coan was a leader and a player that you'd want on your football team. And unfortunate he's leaving the way he's leaving. But obviously the Badgers have to look forward. And with Graham Mertz and with Chase Wolf, it's a logical decision by Jack Coan. I don't want to say predictable, but, it is what it is. So he will not be back next year. And we saw the Badgers 2 quarterbacks on Saturday. I do want to update everyone on the Jets-Rams score because that's obviously important to Chad Clough's hot seat rankings. Now, I know we took Adam Gase off of it, okay? But the Jets are up 20-10 with 3:46 left in the third quarter. If you took the points in the Jets, you are looking really good right now because you got 17 points in this game. So, last but not least, did you listen to last week's episode? Any thoughts on our draft talk without you?
Go back to Coan quickly. Like you had mentioned, it stinks that he's leaving. It completely makes sense. Like, you can't sit out a whole year with a 5-star blue chip kid getting the start and then expect to come back next year and be named the starter. Like that's just unfortunately that's not the way that football works anymore. Everything that he did, like where he was to where he ended up as a quarterback, was magnificent. And like he was out there celebrating the acts, and like at that time, right? Like he didn't just wake up this morning and be like, "I'm going to transfer." He knew that he probably knew he was transferring already, and he was out celebrating. He was the first guy out on the field hugging the other quarterbacks. And then all the messages that were left when that were sent when it was officially announced. Like you can't say enough about him as a quarterback. You can't say enough about him as a leader. If he were quarterback this year, I legitimately think they'd be 5-1 or 6-0 right now.
Yeah.
Going
and I would agree. Now again, the weapons and everything that happened throughout the year, maybe not, but I think the poise that he has shown, and again, Jack Coan is a Badger quarterback. He has those moments where he's going to frustrate you, where his talent just isn't enough. And the shiny toy that Graham Mertz was always going to be what we wanted as fans. That's all we ever talked about.
Talked about it as fans, but I even said like I still thought Coan would start just because he didn't do anything that would lost him playing time. So I hope he goes, like he's obviously going to make a choice to go somewhere where he's going to be the number one quarterback, and he should. And I'm going to be cheering for whoever that is. I did see some
Illinois.
I did see some speculation that Illinois and Northwestern could be on that list, which kind of made me.
Honestly, the first team I thought of was Northwestern. Team I thought of.
They just have a transfer guy who's done now, right?
Right.
Rutgers came up as another one.
Where Kershank has been really good this year.
Yeah, we could have used him. Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, Will, before we get out of here, you know who won the AFC East, correct, Will? No. Who is the champions of the AFC East? It's my Buffalo Bills, your dad's Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen continues to play like an MVP, but not like Aaron Rodgers.
Cool. Well, the Chiefs just fumbled the ball, and the Saints just scored.
What is the score? We want the Saints to lose, Will.
14-14?
Will, we want the Chiefs to win today.
Then they need to throw the ball to Kelsey. Only Kelsey.
Guys, you heard it here. You want to know anything about football? Listen to more episodes, and we'll bring Will back. Chad and I know nothing, and you guys know that. That's why you stopped listening. So continue to sort of follow us. It's Football First Pod.
I feel like a lot of half effort going on here. Besides my mean man, BD, my take team champ partner. Shout out for you, BD. Love you.
Here's the thing, man. What are we doing here? Is this still fun? Do we want to still entertain these 14 people? Because I had fun.
I'm laughing right now.
I had fun doing this. Right? So
just to sprint in here and tell you that update about the Chiefs and the
you guys want to listen to PFF and some of these other people? Would you get a 8-year-old kid just running in here telling us about highlights of games? No.
Oh, you want to listen to analytics and all these next gen stats and stuff?
Yeah.
Boring.
You know what you want to hear about? You want to hear about Chad getting chewed out and him losing a game at Michigan State because he lollygagged it.
Can you imagine the look on our faces though when he said, and I quote, spotting the ball and holding the chains with half butt effort?
No. This is a serious question before we leave. Did he or did he not say butt?
No, he didn't say butt.
Oh, okay. Because if he said that, I might have laughed. So
no butt.
All right, man. We didn't watch all the NFL games today, so we're going to give the hot seat ranking a reprieve because the Packers did win. I might film a video on my reaction to the Packers win over the Panthers. But I'm not doing that until you people start listening.
Boring.
Yeah. No one wants to hear it anyways. All right, man. See ya.
All right.